Hi, Miss Dean and the ladies of Philadelphia. I'm Kimberly Frazier, and I am bringing to you guys this afternoon steak, potatoes, spinach, and basil soup. I hope you enjoy. So, the first thing we need to do with our soup is get the spinach and basil taken off the stem. This is a bunch of spinach, and this is a bunch of basil. You can find it at your grocery store, and all we want to do is take the bunch loose and then start removing the leaves from the stem. We're not really particular about it. We just want most of this green part gone. The hard, tough, chewy part, because we're going to cook these. Alright, we have soaked our spinach and basil in some water. We're not really soaking them. What we're trying to do is there was like sand on the outside of the leaves. And spinach floats and sand sinks. So we put it in the sink with some cold water to let the sand sink to the bottom and let us get some fresh spinach. So while we're letting that sort of rinse off, we've got our 4 cups of beef broth and 2 cups of water to simmer. And we're going to season this. I have paprika, cumin, bay leaves, and salt and pepper. So we'll put 1 bay leaf in, pepper and salt to taste. Like to start slow and add as we go. About 2 tablespoons of paprika. I just sort of eyeball it. 1 tablespoon of cumin. I want to say cumin. I don't know what it is, so I'm calling it cumin today. And just let that simmer. Let me get a spoon. And let that come up to a simmer. Okay. While we wait for our broth to simmer, what we're going to do is we are going to saute our garlic and shallots. This is 2 shallots and 2 cloves of garlic. We're going to saute in 2 tablespoons of butter. And what we're using these for is to add a little flavor, and we're going to make a roux, a cream base to sort of thicken our soup. And while we are kind of sauteing those, we also want to wilt our basil spinach mix. So we took it out of the water now, and it's good and rinsed off, and we want to wilt it down. It's really hot, so I'm just going to take it off the eye real quick. Luckily, these leaves have lots of liquid in them. We're wilting them down so that they can fit in the pot with the rest of the stew. Right now, if I tried to put all these leaves in here, they would never go, and it'd be like up here. So we're going to wilt them down some, because ultimately that's the goal we're going for anyways, is wilted leaves. Okay, so now after letting the onions and shallots saute a little bit, I added 2 tablespoons of flour to make our thickening agent, and I have just sauteed it a little bit more to sort of brown and cook the flour so we don't have that starchy flour taste in our soup. So now I'm just going to add a tablespoon or 2 of red or apple cider vinegar, excuse me. This is going to add a nice acidic flavor in our stew. You won't really taste it overall, and it's also going to help that flour come loose some. And now we are just going to add our thickening agent and our shallots into the spinach. Okay, we have our thickening agent and our spinach basil mix combined. So now we're just going to add this to our stock and water mixture. And at this point in time, we can go ahead and on our potatoes too. Now what I have here is about 5 to 6 large diced red potatoes. They're red and they're waxy, so they don't break up when you boil them. So we're just going to add these but I'll drain them first once again so I don't burn myself. Okay, now that we got the potatoes drained, we're just gonna add them in. This is kind of perilous. All right, nobody got burnt. Yay. And stir. And we're gonna leave this to simmer for 10, 15, 20 minutes till your potatoes are about halfway soft, because the meat that we're adding into our steak, potato, spinach, and basil soup is a tri-tip loin that we're going to slice up into our own individual beef stew pieces. We picked the tri-tip loin. It's a very tender cut of meat, so it's very reminiscent of actual steak to me instead of beef stew. So we're just going to brown that off real quickly and put it in the stew as a finish, so that it's still very tender and steaky. So we're just going to leave this alone for a while, and I'll be back and we'll work on the steak. Okay, ladies, now we're just searing off our tri-tips to get them nice and brown and charred like a steak would be. So while we're waiting on that, we are going to add 4 ounces of the tomato and sun-dried tomato and basil Philadelphia cream cheese to our soup base to add a nice tomato flavor, to bring out the basil, and to make it nice and creamy. So, y'all know how Philadelphia is. It melts up really nicely, so I just put the whole dollop in there and stir it up real good. Want to get all of it in here because this has got a really good flavor. This might be one of my favorite Philadelphia flavors. Okay, and now our steak looks nice and charred and browned up like a steak should be. This is, you know, what I think of when I think of a nice juicy steak. So now we're just going to add it in. Do it in batches if you need to, so that you can get that nice charred color. If you put too many in the pan at one time, then they won't brown. They'll steam instead, and you won't have any char. And if that's the case, you might as well throw the meat in at the beginning and not worry about it getting browned. So, wow. Now we're just going to let this simmer, let everything melt together, and then we'll have steak, potato, spinach, and basil soup. Okay, so we're just going to add a nice dollop of sour cream. Maybe more than that. Because, you know, when you have steak and potatoes, you need sour cream and chives. And a few green onions. There's a difference. These are green onions, these are not chives. And that is our steak, potato, spinach, and basil soup.